October 25th, 1974. The Medicine Bow National Forest in southern Wyoming. A place of deep silence, where the wind moves through pine and aspen like a whispered secret. On this afternoon, a man named Carl Hickden Jr. drives a borrowed company pickup truck down a dirt track that seems to lead nowhere. He is 41 years old, a foreman, a husband, a hunter. He carries a new 7mm Magnum rifle, eager to prove it in the elk woods. He does not know that by nightfall, he will have vanished. And when he returns, he will no longer be sure what he is.
Carl steps out. He checks his rifle, locks the truck, and walks into the woods. He has hunted these trails for years. He knows the lay of the land. But today, something feels different. The birds do not sing. The air carries a strange weight, as though the forest is holding its breath. He raises the rifle. He centers the crosshairs on the largest animal. He squeezes the trigger. But the explosion never comes. No recoil, no thunderous crack. Instead, the bullet leaves the barrel as if swimming through honey. Slow, visible, impossible. It travels perhaps 50 feet. Then it stops, hangs in midair, and flattens against nothing. Then, the shock hits him. Not from the gun, from the unseen. A violent convulsion, as if lightning has passed through his spine. Carl's body seizes. He is thrown backward, crashing onto the forest floor. For a long moment, he can only lie there, gasping, vision swimming. When he finally forces himself to sit up, the elk are still frozen. And standing over him, silent, hovering inches above the ground, is something that should not exist. The being speaks. Its voice is not loud, yet it fills the clearing like a bell. I am Ozo-1. How are you feeling? Carl cannot answer. He cannot run. He can only watch as the creature reaches into its suit and produces a dark pill. Take this, it says. It will help you understand. And in that moment, Carl Hickden Jr. makes a choice that will haunt him for the rest of his life. He takes the pill. The world tilts sideways, and the forest falls away. The pill dissolves on Carl's tongue like ash. Instantly, the terror drains from his muscles. His thoughts, which had been racing in panicked circles, slow to a strange, glassy calm. He looks up at the hovering figure, Ozo-1, and feels no urge to run. The being gestures with one long-fingered hand toward the trees. Carl turns, and there, floating just above the forest floor, is a cube. No larger than a horse trailer. Metallic, featureless. No doors, no windows, no sound. It hangs in the air as if the laws of physics have politely stepped aside. Ozo-1 speaks again. Its slit of a mouth does not move, yet the words form clearly inside Carl's skull. Come, you will not be harmed. Carl wants to ask where. He wants to ask why. But before he can form the question, Ozo-1 glides toward the cube. Carl follows. Not because he chooses to, but because his legs move on their own. One moment he is outside, studying the seamless metal. The next, he is inside. There was no door, no flash of light, just a shift, like turning a page. Inside the tower, a lift carries them upward in silence. When the doors open, Carl steps into a circular chamber. And he is not alone. Several other humans stand there, dazed, frightened, wearing clothes from different times and places. A woman in a torn dress, a man in coveralls, a boy no older than 12. Among them, animals, elk,
deer, even a coyote, all frozen in place as the elk had been. Then a voice, loud, sexless, everywhere, fills the chamber. Carl Hickden, you are no longer required.
The voice speaks again, but Carl cannot remember its words, only that it dismissed him as casually as a clerk closing a file. And then, darkness. When light returns, he is lying in a hospital bed. His wife, Marjorie, is crying. His body aches, his eyes burn, and he has no idea how 3 days have passed. Days later, Marjorie will find a flattened bullet in Carl's trouser pocket. Doctors will discover that his kidney stones have vanished, and so have old tuberculosis scars on his lungs. The police report will note that the two-wheel drive truck was found miles deep in muddy terrain with no tire tracks leading to it. Carl will tell his story, then retreat into silence. But the Star people are not finished with Wyoming. Another man, a rancher named Pat Maguire, is about to meet them under a very different sky. While Carl Hickden lay in a hospital bed trying to piece together his shattered memory, 60 miles away in Laramie County, a rancher named Pat Maguire was fighting a very different kind of war. Maguire ran 5,000 acres of hard Wyoming land. He was a practical man, tough, blunt, known for his stubborn independence. But the summer of 1974 had shaken him. One by one, his cattle were turning up dead. Not from disease, not from predators. Their ears and noses had been removed with surgical precision. No blood, no tracks, nothing. Maguire reported the mutilations to the sheriff. The sheriff shrugged. So Maguire decided to take matters into his own hands. He and his ranch hands began keeping night watch. And on those cold, clear nights, they saw things. Lights that moved without sound. Lights that hovered over the pastures, then dropped silently behind the ridgeline. Lights that seemed to watch. Every time the lights appeared, Maguire would find another mutilated animal the next morning. He grew furious. He grew afraid. Finally, he decided he would not just watch. He would confront whoever or whatever was trespassing on his land. He enlisted a worker named Jimmy Ashley, a quiet man in his 30s. On a night in late summer, they hid themselves behind an old watering trough near the north pasture. And they waited. Then the light came, not from the sky this time, from beyond the ridge. A soft, pulsing glow that grew brighter as it rose. Maguire watched as a metallic craft crested the hill and descended into the pasture. No sound, no heat, just a silent, disc-shaped object the size of a hay truck resting on the grass 50 yards away. And then, figures emerged. Tall, dark, floating above the ground. Maguire wanted to run, but before he could move, Jimmy Ashley stood up. Not like a man deciding to act, like a man in a trance. His eyes were glassy. His mouth hung open. He dropped his pipe and walked straight past Maguire, toward the craft and the hovering figures. Maguire hissed his name. Ashley did not respond. He walked until he reached the nearest figure, then reached out and placed his bare hand on the metal hull of the craft. The moment Ashley's skin touched the metal, fire erupted. Not from the craft, from him. A sheet of rolling flame engulfed his entire body. Ashley screamed, a terrible animal sound, and fell to the ground, writhing, beating at his clothes. Maguire rushed forward, grabbed a blanket from the trough, and smothered the flames. When it was over, Ashley lay gasping, eyes wide with shock. But his clothes were intact. His skin was unmarked. There were no burns, no blisters, nothing. Jimmy Ashley never spoke about that night. He left the ranch within a week, moved away, and told no one. But Pat Maguire could not let it go. He began having nightmares. He began waking with scratches on his arms and symbols in his memory. And when he finally agreed to undergo hypnosis, the Star People came back. They had a message for him about water, about survival, and about the end of the world. Under hypnosis, Pat Maguire's voice changed. It became slower, flatter, as if someone else was speaking through him. He described being taken from his ranch, not in a craft of metal, but in a dream that felt more real than waking. He found himself standing inside a circular chamber, surrounded by the same tall figures he had seen in the pasture. The Star People, he called them. Each one identical, each dressed in a black bodysuit with a yellow star-shaped buckle, each hovering silently above the floor. The Star People did not speak aloud. Their words arrived directly in Maguire's mind, cold, clear, and absolute. Humanity is burning its own future. The waters will fail. The winds will turn to fire. Your children will die of thirst unless you prepare. They showed him visions, dried riverbeds, dust storms swallowing towns, cities empty and baking under a white sun. Then the images stopped. One being stepped forward and said, "Dig wells, store water. You and your bloodline may survive." When Maguire awoke from hypnosis, he was trembling, but he remembered everything. He went home and immediately began digging. His neighbors laughed. They told him his land sat on bedrock, no water for hundreds of feet. Maguire ignored them. He hired a well drilling crew and pointed to a spot near the north fence line. The drill bit turned, the ground gave way, and water burst forth, clean, cold, and abundant. Maguire drilled more wells. Each one struck water, exactly where the Star People had told him. He stockpiled barrels of fresh water in his barn. He built storage tanks. He became obsessed. The visions continued, even without hypnosis. The Star People visited him in his bedroom, in his truck, in the middle of the day. They told him to father as many children as possible. Your lineage must be strong, they said. The catastrophe is coming. His wife, whose name was never made public, endured the changes for a while. But when Maguire began waking the children at 3 a.m. to recite warnings about the coming apocalypse, she reached her limit. She packed their bags one afternoon while he was out digging yet another well. By the time he returned, the house was half empty. A note on the kitchen table read, "I cannot raise our children with the Star People. Goodbye, Pat." Maguire lived alone after that. The ranch grew quiet. The cattle mutilations stopped. But the Star People did not leave. They came less often, but they came. Maguire stopped talking to neighbors. He stopped bathing regularly. He filled notebooks with sketches of star-shaped buckles and coordinates he could not explain. And then, in 1982, he made a decision that would end whatever dignity he had left. He ran for governor of Wyoming. The campaign was a disaster. Maguire was mocked on television. Newspapers called him the alien rancher. He lost by a landslide and lost his remaining friends along the way. He sold the ranch for a fraction of its worth and moved into a small trailer on the outskirts of Laramie. His children did not visit. His ex-wife remarried. And on a cold night in 1989, Pat Maguire died alone. They found him sitting in a chair, surrounded by stacks of paper, every page covered in drawings of the Star People and their star-shaped buckle. Carl Hickden and Pat Maguire never met. They lived 60 miles apart, moved in different circles, and told their stories years apart.
Yet the similarities are impossible to ignore. Both were practical, hardworking men with no history of mental illness or hoaxing. Both described tall, silent beings in black suits with yellow star-shaped emblems. Both reported floating figures, impossible craft, and missing time. And both emerged from their encounters physically changed.
Hickden's medical records tell a strange story. When he was admitted to Carbon County Memorial Hospital, doctors noted severe disorientation, reddened eyes, and a complete loss of balance. But the most puzzling findings came later. His kidney stones, documented for years, were gone. His old tuberculosis scars had vanished from his lungs. X-rays confirmed the changes. His own wife, Marjorie, told investigators the doctors had no explanation. They simply said it was impossible.
Then, there was the flattened bullet. Marjorie found it while washing Carl's trousers, the same pants he had worn during the hunting trip. She placed it on the kitchen table and stared at it for a long time. A professional ballistics examination later confirmed that the bullet had been fired from Carl's rifle, but it had not struck any normal object. It had simply collapsed, flattened as if pressed by an enormous invisible force. No rifling marks on the sides, no impact debris, just a disc of copper and lead. Police reports added another layer of mystery. The AM Wells service truck was a two-wheel drive vehicle, yet it was found nearly 2 miles deep into rough, muddy terrain that should have been impassable. When officers arrived, they noted that the truck was stuck in thick mud, but there were no tire tracks leading to its location. None. The vehicle appeared to have been simply placed there, as if lowered from above. Footprints were also absent, neither Carl's nor anyone else's. Maguire's ranch also yielded physical traces. During the summer of 1974, the Laramie County Sheriff's Office received multiple complaints about cattle mutilations. Deputies who visited the ranch found carcasses with surgical precision, ears, noses, and genitalia removed with what appeared to be a hot blade, sealing the wounds instantly. No blood at the scene, no predator tracks. Several deputies later admitted off the record that they had seen strange lights in the sky above Maguire's property, but the official reports remained vague. Jimmy Ashley, the ranch hand who touched the alien craft, refused all interviews for the rest of his life. But one researcher who tracked him down in the early 1980s reported a brief conversation. Ashley said only, it wasn't fire, it was something else. Something that felt like fire, but didn't burn. I haven't slept through the night since. He then closed the door and never spoke to another investigator again. Skeptics have offered explanations: carbon monoxide poisoning, temporal lobe seizures, shared delusion, or outright fraud. But these theories struggle to explain the physical evidence: the flattened bullet, the vanished scars, the impossible tire tracks, the cattle mutilations witnessed by multiple men. And neither Hickden nor Maguire ever sought money or fame. They told their stories reluctantly, then retreated into ordinary lives. Hickden passed a polygraph test administered by a respected examiner. Maguire's hypnosis sessions were recorded and analyzed by multiple professionals, none of whom found signs of deception. So we are left with a question. Not whether Carl Hickden and Pat Maguire believed what they saw. Clearly, they did. Not whether the physical evidence exists. It does, buried in police files and hospital records. The real question is this: if something truly unexplained visited that corner of Wyoming in the mid-1970s, what did it want? Why those two men? Why those cattle? And, perhaps the most unsettling thought of all, is it still here? The year is now 2026. More than 50 years have passed since Carl Hickden fired his rifle at an elk and watched the bullet stop in mid-air. Pat Maguire's wells still produce water on the ranch that no longer belongs to his family.
Jimmy Ashley is long dead, having never spoken another word about that night. And the Star People? No one has reported seeing them in Wyoming for decades. Or so the official record says. But every few years, a new report surfaces. Not in Wyoming this time. In Montana, in Nebraska, in the Canadian Plains. Always rural, always at night. Witnesses describe the same details. Tall figures in black suits, star-shaped emblems, a soundless hovering craft. They never remember the encounter fully, only fragments. A dark pill, a silver cube, a voice inside their skull saying, "You are safe. You are chosen." Then, weeks of nightmares. Then silence. Researchers who have studied the Wyoming cases point to a disturbing pattern. The Star People were never hostile, not in the usual sense. They did not attack or abduct by force. They offered pills to calm fear. They gave warnings about climate collapse. They instructed Maguire to stockpile water. They told Hickden his kidney stones would be healed. In other words, they acted less like invaders and more like caretakers, or perhaps shepherds.
But if they are shepherds, then what is the flock being prepared for? Maguire's apocalyptic warnings came true in a sense. Climate change has indeed brought drought, fire, and unpredictable storms to the American West. The wells he dug on Star People's instructions still provide water to the current owners of his ranch. Carl Hickden's medical anomalies, the vanished scars, the dissolved kidney stones, suggest an ability to heal or alter human biology with precision. Were they tests, gifts, or something else entirely? Pat Maguire died alone and broken, dismissed as a fool. But before he died, he told one visitor, "They never promised to save everyone. They only promised to save the ones who listened. And I listened. My children may hate me now, but when the time comes, they will drink from the wells, and they will remember." Maguire's children, now grown, refuse to speak about their father. But they have not sold the ranch, and the wells still work. Carl Hickden died in 2004, surrounded by family. He never recanted his story, but he rarely repeated it. When his grandchildren asked about the Star People, he would say only, "They are not here to hurt us, but they are not here to save us either. They are here to watch, and they have been watching for a very long time." He kept the flattened bullet in a drawer until his death. His wife Marjorie donated it to a UFO research group in 2005. Its current location is unknown. So here we are, half a century later. The internet is full of hoaxes, CGI, and blurry lights. Skepticism is healthier than ever. And yet, every few years, somewhere in the rural West, a hunter or a rancher or a truck driver steps outside on a clear night and sees something that should not exist. A silent light, a hovering shape. And sometimes, if the witness is unlucky, or lucky enough, a tall figure in a black suit with a yellow star at its waist. The figure does not run. It does not hide. It simply watches. And then, it is gone. The Star People left no definitive proof. No crashed ships, no bodies, no government disclosure. Just the stories of ordinary people who never wanted to be famous, supported by fragments of medical records, police reports, and a single flattened bullet that vanished into a researcher's archive. But perhaps that is the point. Perhaps they do not want to be proven. Perhaps they only want to be remembered. And as long as someone in Wyoming looks up at the night sky and wonders, they are never truly gone. The Star People. They may have been visitors. They may have been guardians. or they may have been something we do not yet have words for. But if Carl Hickden and Pat Maguire were right about anything, it is this: we are not alone, and we never were.